how do we build bridges that will help us to that expanding opportunity that we heard about, recognizing that there are going to be some very challenging transitions to get there, right? The paradox that we see is that we face a future of expanding opportunities, as we heard about, but we're in a political system that is increasingly polarized. So it's increasingly polarized around what have been described as threat-based narratives, right? The enemy depends on which side of the aisle you're on, but everybody's certain that it's existential threat, and we have to do something about it, and it's going to get us right away. So one of the challenges we have is in that kind of environment, what can we do, each of us, to make a difference? So we think that one of the things we can do, and the reason we have this event, is that we can come together to frame what we would describe as an opportunity-based narrative that will counter the threat-based narrative and focuses on how we create environments that help all of us to achieve much more of our potentials. We believe that kind of opportunity-based narrative can actually bring people together and bridge that polarization that we're in right now. And who would not want to be part of creating that environment where we can achieve far more of our potential? That's exciting, right? That's interesting. That's something we can bring people together across the political spectrum to work on. So one of our board members is a very interesting man. He directs something called the Center for the Edge at Deloitte. I see Deloitte has a sign over there. And he's been studying movements throughout his career of various types. And he's a very interesting man. Interestingly, as a college student, he was president at one time of both the Young Americans for Freedom chapter and the local chapter of the Students for a Democratic Society. So he's been involved in movements and he's seen them firsthand. So he concludes that there are two requirements for successful movements to have impact. The first, as we said, is an opportunity-based narrative. That's what people really coalesce around. If you can paint a vision of a better future that we can work on together, that's a very exciting thing. And every successful movement that he studied, and I think anybody could point to, has had an opportunity-based narrative that mobilizes people, that inspires people, gets them to actually make significant sacrifices for the movement to succeed. So that's really key. The other element is the method of organizing that's been effective through all these movements. And those are small groups and what we call independent communities of impact. These are typically anywhere from 5 to 15 people. They come together and they work on things and they can move beyond. And I'm sure that everyone in this room is a member of some kind of group, right? A discussion group, a book club, some kind of gathering that gets together. And we can discuss these interesting ideas, but more importantly is what we do about them together. So we need to go beyond discussing them to figuring out how we can have impact and not just look to Washington or others to solve it. So start by asking, what can we as a small group do that would make a difference? What is an issue that we care about, that we think that we could come up with some ideas, work together on, and have impact? Independent can help with a lot of content. We have lots of great ideas, so if there's an issue you're interested in, all you have to do is go to our website and Google, and we can provide you lots of information. But a lot of the learning is going to take place through action. It's the feedback. It's taking action and reflecting on what worked and what didn't work and adjusting over time so you can have more impact over time. And that's the most powerful form of learning. So the functions of these small groups, these communities of impact, is in one thing. They hold each other accountable. So if we're here, you agree, we're here to have impact, let's stop discussing, let's start acting, and also for mutual support. So because we're going to run into all kinds of obstacles and frustrations as we try to act and have impact in that small group, it can be a really powerful way to reinforce this and say, yes, I understand this isn't working the way we thought, but let's just keep going at it and support each other and find how we can make it work. And ultimately, what we've seen in these small groups is what really drives their success is deep trust-based relationships. So that's why they have to be small, because to have that kind of trust and holding each other accountable and working together through the obstacles, you have to be in a small, tight group. But on the other hand, just one group of 5 or 10 people may not be enough. So what's very interesting is you connect together with other groups and you work on the dynamics of that kind of networking, and you learn across your groups. So you're asking each other's questions and you're learning from each other and you're trying to become even more effective and you're learning over time in your environment. And just a couple of points about what's required for success, particularly in the early stages. One is to resist the temptation to change the world right now. Okay. Focus on early wins. What are things in your local community where you can have real impact that could make a difference, at least right here? And where there's a lot of latent support, we have a sense just by the people we know in that community that if we could start to mobilize around this issue or that issue, we could get a lot more support and build from there and then get the early wins. Because if you're not seeing results, you're going to quit, right? If you are seeing results, it's a very positive, self-feeding format. So think about who are other groups we can tap into, connect with around a particular issue or opportunity we're targeting so that we can get a lot more support from just our 10 or 15 people. So we'd ask each of you to leave here today with the question of, who do I know? Who are the 5 or 10 or 15 people that I know that I could convene as a small group, and not just as a discussion group, but as a community of impact, together identify an issue we care about, and over time expand out and build networks connecting to other local groups. Because the real opportunity here is to mobilize Main Street. We need to shift our attention from looking to Washington to solve all our problems, and lobbying and passing laws and so on, and make a difference on an ongoing basis, not just around elections. So the most powerful way, and we've seen it over and over again, I was talking to some of you during the break, that we see change happen is through this, with an idea taking hold, people grabbing it, getting excited about it, mobilizing, coming together to achieve it. And we believe that one of the key themes in all of the work we do is that small moves matter, and if they're made smartly, very big things can get set in motion and change the world. So start with a small group, focus on some early wins in your local communities, and go from there. Independent is here again with lots of ideas, case studies, people who do these things. We'd be happy to provide you with information. And then we'll build the bridges. But it's not just building the bridges, then you have to drive across them. It's actually moving across the bridges you've built that makes the difference. So that's where the win is going to be. We hope this has inspired you to go home and put these ideas into action with friends and associates, and we look forward to hearing about your wins.
And you can see how this fits in with both the recent elections, where people are sort of rebelling against the elites. They're tired of being misled and underperforming results across the spectrum. It also relates to what George Gilder is talking about and other speakers, Robert Waples and so forth, Joshua's business, Atlas Medical. In all these instances, you have small groups. They could be firms. They could be different kinds of groups that exist by definition in our communities, in our professions, with our families, and so forth. And the idea is to accelerate the idea of decentralization so people, the old ad is that all politics is local, is more relevant than even I had once thought. So I want to thank Mary, and I want to thank all of our speakers. If I could have another round of applause for all of them. These are very smart and great people who are advancing ideas, and Independent is very pleased and privileged to work with each of them in trying to advance the impact of what they do in our world in every possible way. Thank you for coming.